Welcome in. It is Big Ten today. It is great to have you with us. Dave Revson, Dave Wanstedt. Excited to talk some CFP with you on our final Tuesday together this year.
You know how coaches are. We are routine people. I am probably going to get up next Tuesday, whether Mark Halsey and Q and the boys, and walk down here and have a cup of coffee. Just because it's what I do on Tuesday, you know?
That sounds great. We'd be delighted to have you here. We'll hang out. I will share some Java with you, and I'm excited to share some conversation with you here. Fascinated on your thoughts on these matchups. Let's start with the CFP. It is our big story. Michigan and Alabama, New Year's Day, the Rose Bowl, the 21st time the Wolverines will play at the granddaddy of them all, but the first time in 17 years. It's Michigan's third straight berth in the CFP, and they are facing a team in the Crimson Tide that has been there 8 times. That is the most of any school. The Wolverines fired up for the opportunity.
I was really excited. I really got goosebumps for real, because Alabama, big time team, big time franchise, always had a history of having loaded players. So, the fact that we get to face them first, in the bowl game, really excited for the opportunity. So just can't wait to get on the field as soon as possible and get after the boys.
It doesn't matter to me. I feel like the rankings really don't matter. Just kind of line it up and let's find out. Let's see who's the best team. But I do believe we are the best team in the country. I believe, just how we play together, our defense, our offense, I feel like we're definitely one of the best team in the country.
Bama is no stranger to the Rose Bowl, though the last time they played in it, the game was actually held in Arlington, Texas, due to COVID. There's 6 other Rose Bowls, all came prior to 1950, but interestingly, the game is mentioned in their fight song, so there's certainly a historical connection. Last time they actually played in Pasadena, the 2009 National Championship game, so not technically a Rose Bowl. Michigan's 21 appearances in the game, second only to USC. Wani, it's a marquee game. It's marquee programs. It is a wonderful setting. It's hard to ask for more than this.
It is the granddaddy, and I, I've had a chance to coach in it twice. So once when I was at USC, played Ohio State there, and then once with the Dallas Cowboys, we played the Super Bowl there. And the thing that's so great about this, this is a neutral site. It's not like it's down south somewhere or in the Midwest where who's got home field advantage. Both fans will have equal opportunities to get there. The weather is probably going to be outstanding for football out there in Southern California, and just the history of the whole place, walking into that. So I think it's a perfect setup for this game. I know that Michigan will be, who's been there before, as you said, but for these young kids, you can't get a better atmosphere for a big-time game.
I agree. I mean, I have been privileged to go to many Rose Bowls, and it is always a thrill to step onto those grounds in Pasadena. There is just something magical and special about it. It's a truly amazing place. It'll be the 6th time these two have played all time. It is Alabama with the narrow 3-2 lead. They've won the last 2 matchups with the Wolverines. And when you talk about Michigan in these big games, they have not fared well here recently, Wani. We know about the last 2 CFPs. They lost in the semifinals. You go back, they've only won 1 bowl game under Jim Harbaugh, 1-6 in the postseason. So what does Michigan have to do here, in your opinion, to flip the script and to find themselves playing in the championship game?
I was thinking about this, Rever, and I've had an opportunity 3 times to play, not in this type of format, but for a national championship.
Right.
And I go back to the first time I coached in one at the University of Pittsburgh. And our head coach was Johnny Majors. And he came in and we won that game. And his point was, don't get bored. And I remember writing that on the board to the coaches. And he was talking about don't get bored because there's so much time. Okay, what do we got, 3 weeks or so before we play the game? It's easy for coaches to sit in there and start watching all this tape and come up with all these ideas, which were good ideas, but when you actually start practice with the players, you can't get it in, and you can't execute it well enough. So don't get bored, know what you do best, and you're going to add some to it. And it's kind of the same way with the players. And then I did that when we were at Miami, and we played we played Penn State one year, and then the next Oklahoma, same thinking. We wanted to do the physical part. So I don't know how Jim's doing it, but any physical stuff we do with the players, we thought physical early in our preparation, mental late. And that way we're clear mind, we're playing fast, no one's bored. It's that was kind of the routine we did, to be quite honest with you, and how that's going to fit in. And if Jim tweaks some things, which I hope he does, I think it'll kind of fall into one of those three categories.
Fascinated to see how they come out in this one. I do believe that playing Alabama gives you a little bit of extra something, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, the motivation, but plus kind of the focus to know, hey, these guys are really good. You know the history of Alabama. You know you're going up against maybe the best coach in the history of college football in Nick Saban. I certainly think he's on a very short list in terms of that conversation. What about the key players? Who are you going to be focused on in this one?
To me, this is a quarterback matchup. I think both teams run the ball. Both teams are going to play good defense. But start with Michigan. Michigan needs more explosive plays. I think everybody would agree with that. And that's a combination of, this is an opportunity. Let's look at it that way, JJ. This is a great opportunity for you to have that Heisman moment, as we say. And I'm sure that, and it's a perfect setup. How are you going to get explosive plays? I mean, we got, Wilson, we got Loveland, we got Johnson. We got talented guys there. And the way we run the ball, you get big explosive plays by the play action pass. It doesn't come in third down. Third down, the guy sitting on his couch knows you're going to throw it. You should. But where you get it is on first and second down. And if you don't have a good run game, it means nothing. Well, Michigan has an excellent running game. That's their lifeline. So the play action pass to me is going to be key. And then JJ, I think people underestimate his athleticism and being able to make some plays on his feet. I'm not talking about putting in 10 quarterback designed runs. Right. No, that's not. But a couple keepers, maybe some bootlegs where it's run pass option. To me, the quarterback, and it's the same thing with Alabama. You asked on there, Jalen Milroe. He's got to, he's got to step up and play. His numbers are good. I was looking at, 18 touchdowns and only 4 interceptions. So this is not a guy that's dropping back and throwing at the other team.
No, I think the thing that's really interesting to me about Milroe, and I'm interested in your take on this as someone who's been a defensive coordinator at the very highest level. Jalen Milroe, in watching him this year, to me, I think he poses different challenges than any quarterback that Michigan has faced. I don't think they faced a quarterback that is mobile, that looks to run as much as Jalen Milroe. Like, Tua Tagovailoa can run.
Right.
But, I mean, that is not a part of their attack. That's not a part of their game. He's got, I think, less than 50 rushing yards for the year. Now, obviously, a lot of that's sacks. But Jalen Milroe looks to run. He's not just a quarterback who evades the rush. He's a quarterback who runs the ball. How much more difficult is that to prepare for? Because if you look down Michigan's schedule this year, they have not faced someone like that.
No, that's a great point. You know who physically he reminds me of is Justin Fields. He's a big, strong player that's got the arm to hit you, and you better tackle him. He will run through a tackle. Besides his speed, his size and strength separates him. He's Michael Vick was a big, strong. Justin Fields, big, strong quarterback. And the one thing, he averages about 11 runs a game. But in the Auburn game, when they needed him, he had the ball 18 times. So that tells you going into this thing, if they're struggling running it, this guy's going to be the guy. He's the one that makes this offense go. And he is a dual threat quarterback. He's got 7 rushing touchdowns in addition to the 18 passing. So he's going to put stress on your defense. You've got to be disciplined. You've got to stay home. And I think Michigan, they'll match up well there. And they're going to be smart. They're going to be tough. So that doesn't bother me. It's what we call unscripted plays that you can't practice and you can't draw up, and all of a sudden the guy does something, reverses field. Now it just comes down to athleticism, discipline, and being smart.
That's what concerns me in watching Milroe is, again, like it's just a different challenge. And how are you going to simulate that in practice? There isn't really a game plan necessarily that you can go back to this year and say, hey, we're going to defend him in the same way we did quarterback X, because there just hasn't been anyone similar. In the same vein, We're talking about the number one scoring defense in America, in Michigan. So
absolutely,
they have met absolutely every challenge that they have faced this year. This is going to be a huge one New Year's Day in Pasadena. It is hard to argue with the guy after the performance he had on Friday. Buie's 31-point, 9-assist, 0 turnover showing against Zach Edey and Purdue. For a little perspective, consider that in the last 20 seasons, the only major conference player to post those numbers, aside from Buie, former Oklahoma State star Jamison Curry. The difference is that Curry did it against Texas A&M Corpus Christi, and Buie did it against the nation's number one team. Buie joins us now. He is today's big interview. Boo, congratulations on an amazing performance on Friday night. You guys have won some really big games during your time at Northwestern. Obviously, there's the win over Purdue last year when they were number one. You went to Michigan State and won last year. You won an NCAA tournament game last season against Boise State. Where does this one rank in your mind?
This one is definitely up there with the top wins. This is only the second time in program history where they beat a number one, and the first time was last year, as you mentioned. So, it's just a awesome testimony to, what we're trying to build here at Northwestern and change that culture. But, it's just a win like any other win. So, it's a long season. So we have to stay hungry and stay motivated to keep going out there and getting these great wins.
You saw the historical perspective on what you did. Just one other player has done anything approaching that. And again, against far inferior opposition. How would you assess your performance now, a couple days removed from it?
Yeah, obviously, I've been told a bunch of times how well I played and stuff, and I actually didn't know that historical stat. But now that I'm looking at it, it's kind of crazy. It's a blessing, but it's just also a testimony to how much faith my team and my teammates and my coaches have in me, and how much just self-belief I have in myself, and it is a good feeling to perform that way.
You said afterwards that you and Zach Edey are the two best players in the country. You did not say in what order. Do you want to clarify that?
You guys can say however order you guys want to say, but obviously he's the reigning national champion, the reigning national player of the year, and he's one incredible player. So we've just been battling the last 3-4 years. That's my dude. We talked outside of the season and stuff, but credit to him, he's one phenomenal player. He drew like 16 fouls on us, but obviously, no one can really guard him. So we're definitely top players in the country.
The atmosphere on Friday night was amazing, and I had the honor of calling the game last year against Purdue, and the atmosphere was amazing there as well. That has not always been the case, as you are well aware. How gratifying is it to see what you guys have built in terms of the fan support, and specifically, I'd say, the student section?
Yeah, it's been awesome. In my first 3 years here, I remember coming out to the court for games. Obviously, one of those seasons was COVID, so no one was there. But no one was there in those other 2 seasons, that fans were allowed. So, really last year was the first season where, fans really started coming out and supporting. And NU Wildside, ever since has been tremendous. And, they show up every night and they bring the energy. So it's just really been awesome. And like I said before, it's just another testimony to, where we're trying to take this thing here at Northwestern.
You could have walked away after last season as one of the best players in Northwestern history. You had won an NCAA tournament game. You had equaled the greatest heights of any Northwestern team ever. What made you decide to come back?
I answered this question a couple times now, and I say, I just think that as the season went on last year, with all the memories we were creating and everything that was going on, and just having plenty of conversations with coaches, with the coaches and stuff, I just really truly felt like I had some unfinished business here. I had more losing seasons than winning seasons, and I just really wanted to help this program, try to do something for the first time in history. So coming back, I came back for moments like last game and just trying to bring this team back to another NCAA tournament, and just trying to be the best accomplished college player I could be.
I do know that NIL is part of the equation for college athletes everywhere now. And I know you've been really involved in Northwestern's NIL approach, which is a little bit different than some other places, called True NU. It brings players into the community. Tell me a bit about what you've been doing there, because you've been active talking about it on social media.
Yeah, so True NU is awesome. It's a great opportunity. It's a partnership that with Northwestern, who they just seek out student athletes, and we go and do work in the community, and it's awesome. We get to give back. We get to go be with kids, and I actually just recently did an event where I was helping wrap gifts and pass out bags for Christmas for kids for the less fortunate kids who may not have the same opportunities on Christmas. And so it's just a really good way to give back and get your name out there in the community and show face. And I know that the kids really enjoy it. Every time I'm there, they're super excited to see me and to see my teammates. And it's a great opportunity for all the Northwestern athletics here. So we have about 18 teams I think True NU works with, and so it's just a great opportunity for all.
Speaking of getting your name out in the community, Epic Burger, local restaurant, has the Boo Burger on the menu, named after you. Shout
out Epic Burger. You definitely want to go and get your Boo Burger.
Tell me a bit about the Boo Burger. What are we getting ourselves into if we order one?
Yeah, so the Boo Burger was created back in October. So I was always going to the restaurant, and I knew the owner, from a previous teammate, Chase. Chase had originally met him last year, and he kind of set up everything. So shout out to Chase Ortiz as well. But this year, the guy's name is David, the owner of Epic Burger. His name's David, and he kind of just wanted to do a different twist. And was like, hey, Boo, you want to come up with your own burger? We could create it, sell it, promote it, whatever. And so basically, I kind of branched off and twisted off of a burger they kind of already had, but, I threw my own unique twist onto it. So it consists of just a regular, nice beef patty with pepper jack cheese, barbecue sauce, pickles, and then on the top of the bun, there's an onion ring for the number 0.
Ah, I like what you did there. Well done. All right, we'll have to go try it out. Hey, your brother, Taylor Battle, is one of the assistants on Northwestern's team and was a great player, as Big Ten fans know. He was the leading scorer, still is the all-time leading scorer at Penn State. What is that relationship like for you to essentially, in some ways, play for your brother, even though he's not the head coach?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's tremendous. Obviously, like you said before, someone who's played in this league and happened to play at the same exact position. It's a huge benefit to have him here, like not just because he's my brother, but he's been through the league, he's been through my shoes because we played the same position, and so he just has a bunch of knowledge, and over the last 2 years, he's helped me tremendously. We work out every day pretty much, and as long as same for the other coaches, they help me get better and stuff as well. But since he's my brother, he's always contacting me outside of practice and stuff, and he's just harping and stressing the game to me, trying to find ways for us to get better. But, most of our conversations are about basketball. We're a basketball family, and that's all we live and breathe. So, being able to have his knowledge day in and day out is awesome.
He is significantly older than you, and he was playing overseas at a point where you're living in Pennsylvania, in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and you decided to leave home and go live with one of your brothers in Albany, essentially to play for the same high school coach as Taylor did. How hard was that decision, Boo, to leave home at age 13 to kind of pursue this basketball dream?
Yeah, so I was living in Pennsylvania with my mother, and there just wasn't really many opportunities, for AAU. There wasn't really an AAU team around. It was about a 3-hour drive, just to get to practices and stuff. And high school basketball in the area that I was growing up in wasn't as good as in New York. So it was really when I just decided, hey, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to continue to do and chase my dreams. So I was really just moving there to have a better opportunity to chase my basketball dreams.
And Chasen, you did, and yet you were very lightly recruited out of high school. I mean, it was basically Boston University, Vermont, I think Siena, UMass, and Northwestern. Northwestern's the only high major offer. What did Chris Collins see in you that others did not?
Coach Collins and his staff had saw me in a tournament in California, and I was playing against one of the top guards in the country who's ranked top in the country. His name was Tyrell Terry. But he was a heck of a player, and we were just going head to head the whole game. And, my team ended up winning that game. And then the next game we had played another good team in Compton Magic, and they had the Mobley twins and some other guys who were really good. So, I kind of just think since he saw that fight in me and being able to go up and compete against those guys, he believed in me. So, and ever since I've got here, he's believed in me ever since I stepped on the court. So,
hey, Boo, your given name is Daniel. When did you become Boo?
To be honest, I don't know how I was ever given that name because I've always been called Boo. You would have thought I was named Boo, but I literally can't remember the last time anyone has called me Daniel, unless I'm having something legal like the DMV or.
Right. All right. So there's literally no one in your life who calls you Daniel. Your mother does not call you Daniel.
No, only if I'm mad. She'll call me Dan. she'll just call me Dan.
Well, we will call you guys a really successful team to this point, but obviously, as you mentioned off the top, there's a lot of season left. What needs to happen for Northwestern, not only to make it back to the tourney, but maybe make it a little further than a year ago?
I think we just got to stay hungry and stay content. Like I said before, it's an awesome big time win, but every win is the same, and at this college level, anything is possible. Anyone can win on any given night. So you just got to stay hungry and content, and keep doing the things that are giving you the success.
Well, Buie, congratulations on all of your success to this point. Been a really fun team to watch here over the last couple of years, and looking forward to seeing what the future holds here for the Cats. Congratulations again. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Conference hoops last night. Purdue, an emphatic bounce-back win over Iowa. Took it by 19, but truthfully, it was not that close. The Boilers led by as many as 35. Zach Edey only played 9 minutes in the second half. Still finished with 25 points and 12 boards. Boilers held Iowa nearly 23 points under its season average coming in. As promised, Trent Meacham is here. It felt like the bad timing award to me for Iowa. It just felt like kind of wrong place at the wrong time. I mean, man, when Purdue is good, they are really good, and they were exceptional last night.
They showed their worth. I mean, I think this team is better than the Purdue teams the last couple seasons that went to number one in the country. They have it all. Last night, obviously, feeding Zach Edey early on, he's almost unstoppable. And when they're missing, they're rebounding over 50% of their misses. So every facet of the game, they just completely dominated. The thing that really stood out to me, though, last night is I was a team that likes to play with a lot of pace. And they typically get up and down. That's kind of where they get you on your heels, where they're at their best. I thought Purdue took that to them. They only had 3 fast break points. So when I talk about pace, it's how they move the ball, how they get the ball up the court. And I look at Lance Jones and Braden Smith. Yeah. You got 2 point guards. And as a point guard, you do it on both ends of the court. So defensively, you pick up 90, 94 feet. All the 4 of the guys in the court can see that point guard doing it. It raises the intensity level. Both of those guys do that. And then offensively, they get that ball, and that ball is going up the court. They're playing inside out. They're flying around. But it all starts with those 2 guards. Braden Smith only 2 points, but he still controlled the game. I really like this Purdue team, and you catch them after a loss, it's going to be tough for that next opponent.
Braden Smith, I think, has gotten significantly better this year. He didn't play great, I didn't think, down the stretch against Northwestern, and Lance Jones really struggled in that game. But you kind of saw, and we've seen it during other parts of this year, obviously the entire tournament out in what was the Maui Classic, but obviously in Honolulu, they played really well. But, man, when they're good, they are really something. And it just felt like Iowa, as good as they typically are offensively, never got in any kind of an offensive flow. 0.8 points per possession in the first half.
Yeah, I want to get to that one. But first, Purdue's defense. I thought they're so connected. They're so solid. Obviously, you got the stopper and Zach Edey back there, and they're kind of funneling guys in there. But They were fantastic. I thought Iowa felt rushed. It felt like Purdue had them playing catch-up all game. Defensively, their pressure seemed to get to them. I didn't think Iowa spread the floor as well as they usually do. That's where they have an advantage. They can play 5 out. Their bigs are skilled. They shoot the 3 ball well. They move the ball well. And it just didn't seem like they could get anything going last night. When you're playing Purdue, too, I think you have to engage Zach Edey. You can't let him just sit back there and be a mountain of a man and deflect shots. And I think you have to attack him. Doesn't mean you have to force something up, but you have to go at him. You got to screen him. And I don't think Iowa did a good job of that last night.
Tough week for Iowa. They've got Iowa State coming up,
Yep.
and then they play Michigan at home on Sunday. Game we'll have here on the Big Ten Network, and a tough week ahead for Purdue as well. They have Alabama and then the huge showdown against now number 1 Arizona. Let's take a look at tonight in the conference. There's some really good action. 2 conference games, 23rd ranked Wisconsin visiting Michigan State. Indiana goes to Michigan, and a tremendous non-conference battle as well at the Garden. 2 top 20 teams as Illinois takes on an FAU team that, of course, played in the Final Four a season ago. We'll get to that game a little bit later. Let's start with the conference games. Michigan has struggled, albeit against good competition, but they've lost 4 of 5. Indiana, man, I mean, I think lost a little bit amidst how well Northwestern played against Purdue Friday was how thoroughly Indiana dominated Maryland. They looked fabulous. What do you think of this matchup?
Well, I think it's going to be a great game. I really like how Indiana's bigs are playing. Khalil Ware, Malik Renew, they're playing through those guys. And the rep with Ware coming in was he's got a lot of potential, but he doesn't quite have that motor, that grit, and he's been fantastic this season. What I love, too, he can shoot the 3, shooting 50% from the 3, but he's not relying on that. So he's a 7-foot kid, skilled. He's only taking about 1 3 a game, shooting it well, but he's getting his work done around the basket, over 17 points, almost 10 rebounds. That, I think, for Indiana is the key rebounding. They have the horses with Renew and Ware, and even off the bench, Peyton Sparks, Anthony Walker, these guys. A lot of athleticism, a lot of size, but they've struggled on the boards against UConn. They got out-rebounded 44-22. So that's the one thing I circle on that box score. I think that's where they have to dominate. Just looking at this roster, they don't shoot the 3 well. 25% from 3 on the season is one of the worst in the country.
Right.
Michigan now, they're giving up about 40% from 3.
Yeah,
So
right.
maybe they can get something
I
going
think that's
tonight.
what's really interesting about this game, right? Because Michigan is really poor defensively in 2 areas. They do not defend the perimeter well at all, and they're really not a good defensive rebounding team. But it doesn't seem like Indiana's really put together to take advantage of either of those things, kind of what you were talking about.
The 3, they don't quite have the personnel, I think, to be a great three-point shooting team. Now, they need to knock some down. Can Peyton Gabe Cupps, we'll see if Xavier Johnson's playing. Can he knock down some shots? Trey Galloway's playing great, just hasn't shot the ball well. Freshman Mackenzie Mbako seems to be coming into form, kind of finding his footing at this level. If he can knock down some shots for them, I think that bodes really well because, yeah, Michigan, maybe tonight's the night to get it going for the Hoosiers. Now, Michigan, they do shoot the 3 well.
Yes.
The key is, the head of the snake is Doug McDaniel. He's playing so well. He's coming off that 33-point night against Oregon. And, look, he's going to shoot. He's taking over 15 shots a game. He's going to shoot 15, 20 shots. So Indiana's really got their work cut out for him. On ball screen situations, can Ware and Renew get up there at the level of the screen so he's not knocking down 6, 7 threes again.
Michigan's got to guard better. I mean,
they do.
Really,
yes,
that's the bottom line there. Wisconsin and Michigan State, the Badgers. I think back to that game against Providence, mid-November, and they looked horrible.
Yeah,
I mean, they looked completely lost. And to think of where they are now and how much better they played. I mean, the Marquette game was so impressive. Over the weekend. I mean, to improve that much in less than a month, and now you get a great test. You're going in to battle Michigan State. We know how good they are at home. This is a really good early season test, I think, for both of these teams.
Yeah, Michigan State I'm still kind of figuring out, but Wisconsin, I love what they have right now. It feels like the pieces fit very well. I think they're a deeper team than they've been. I think this is maybe a better team than when they tied for the winning the Big Ten 2 years ago. A.J. Storr was the perfect pickup for them in the transfer portal. Big, athletic wing, plays above the rim, can knock down shots, gets out in transition. Great pickup for them. John Blackwell, as a freshman, is playing well. So they're an efficient team, top 20 in the nation in offensive efficiency, but they're not even shooting the ball well. And unlike Michigan State, where I question their shooting ability, I think Connor Sejan's going to get going. Max Klesmit's a good shooter. Chucky Hepburn. They have the shooters. Even Crowell can step out and shoot 3. So Once they get that going, I think this team's really dangerous. We've talked about who's second in the Big Ten maybe. Wisconsin is playing as well as anybody outside of Purdue in my eyes.
You mentioned a couple players that have stood out to me. Max Klesmit was clearly, you don't have to be a trained basketball viewer to see how good he was against Marquette. He was incredible, particularly in the first half. And then it feels like Stephen Crowell has really taken a step where the bigs just weren't at the level they needed them to be a year ago. What about Michigan State? How do you view the Spartans at this point?
I think they're going to figure it out, but right now I have questions about them shooting like 27% from three. That's really
That's
poor.
What's so weird.
And
right?
and the two guys that they're not shooting it well are Tyson Walker and Jaden Akins. I think they will improve. And Walker's playing great aside from his three-point shooting, but they play a lot of non-shooters. You know, Cohen Carr, Malik Hall does not look confident out there. Jeremy Fears Jr., Holloman's shooting it better, but A.J. Hogarth, they're playing a lot of non-shooters. They also lack a post presence. I think Malik Hall really needs to do more work in the post. When Jackson Kohler comes back, I think that will help them, maybe more than most people think. But lack of three-point shooting and a post threat, there's some issues there. They're also not the dominant rebounding team that we oftentimes see from Michigan State. I think they need to push the pressure defensively even more. I think they need to push the ball as fast as they can. I think they'll figure it out, but I have some big question marks for them, and I've liked this team. I've liked these players in recent seasons.
Interesting point you make, and I do think once you get Kohler, to be able to dump it down inside and get easy baskets is something this team can't really do. It's just so strange to see them struggle to shoot the three as badly as they have, because this literally was the best three-point shooting team in power conference basketball.
Most of the guys back. I think Joey Hauser's a big miss.
I know.
His versatility, his shot-making ability, his play-making ability, but they're going to need some guys to step up. Trey Holloman, we've seen him step up. They're going to need Jeremy Fears Jr., they're going to need A.J. Hogarth, they're going to need some other guys to knock down some shots.
This is going to seem like a crazy take, but
Let's hear it.
Tom Izzo's a pretty good coach.
I said I think they're going to figure it out. I have questions now, but I think they will figure it out.
Wisconsin's won the last two visits to East Lansing. You want to know the last time they won 3 in a row in East Lansing? The answer is never.
I'm not surprised. That's hard to do.
Some history can be made tonight in the Big Ten. There's women's hoops tonight in the conference as well. 12th-ranked Ohio State will host Ohio U. Buckeyes have won 6 straight, including a 20-point pounding of Tennessee Sunday at Knoxville. Also, Rutgers welcomes LaSalle. Nebraska takes on UNC Wilmington. All of those games are on Big Ten Plus. The 4 finalists for the Heisman Trophy announced yesterday. 3 quarterbacks making the list: LSU's Jaden Daniels, Oregon's Bo Nix, and Michael Penix of Washington. The list also includes Ohio State's Marvin Harrison Jr., the Big Ten Offensive Player of the Year. So congratulations to him. It's the 5th time in the last 6 years Ohio State has had a Heisman finalist. They did not have a Heisman finalist at quarterback this year in Kyle McCord. He was their first quarterback over the last 3 who did not make it to New York as a Heisman finalist, and now they won't have him for their bowl game at all. He is in the transfer portal, and so that is a challenge, no doubt. The team they're playing is a challenge, too. Mizzou is really good. What do you make of this matchup here without their starting quarterback?
Yeah, I think, first with Ohio State, Ryan Day, Devin Brown, he's got a little bit of playing experience. He's a different type of quarterback. He's got a little bit more of the run ability.
Yes.
Obviously. That could be a good thing, because that's got to be the emphasis. If you're Missouri, you got to make sure that the quarterback doesn't hurt you, where, obviously with Kyle McCord, you're not worried about that. So that's going to be a point of emphasis. But what that does, and kind of like I said about Michigan, more explosive plays. Well, I think Ohio State could use a few more explosive plays. And with Devin Brown in there running the ball, there's going to be opportunities for that. There may be more opportunities for the big plays with the play action pass with him in there. So that will be a positive. On the other side, though, Jim Knowles, all year long, we talked about what a fantastic job he's done in all areas, but eliminating or minimizing the big play.
Right. Which they've done.
Yes. Which they've done. Well, this team that they're playing right now, they have 25 plays over 30 yards or more this year. They are one of the more productive in their conference with big plays. How's that happening? They got a running back, Schrader, who's number 3rd right now in FBS in rushing. He's a finalist for the Doak Walker, so they get big plays with the running game. And also receiver. They got Luther Burden III. He's in the top 10 with receiving yards in the entire country. So they got big play potential at running back, big play potential at receiver, And, Ohio State, I mean, they'll be tested probably as much with the big play capability as anybody that they faced thus far this year.
Agree. Luther Burden is something else. I mean,
Yep.
that's a guy who is going to be playing on Sundays in the not-too-distant future. He is a really good player. Penn State in the New Year's Six as well, the Peach Bowl against Ole Miss. What stands out there?
Well, Lane Kiffin, you got to love that. Yeah, the whole part I talked about, don't get bored.
Yeah.
Well, that Lane he does not hear one word of that, okay? Because he will be adding something. So Manny Diaz, get ready.
Yeah.
Right now it's a top 5 defense with Penn State versus a top 25 offense with Ole Miss.
Right.
But with that being said, they're going to have some new creative things. Lane does a fantastic job. I mean, their quarterback, Jackson Dart, 20 touchdowns and only 5 interceptions. So they're playing very good. The strength of this team, though, here it is. The strength, Ole Miss's defense. They are 3rd in the SEC. They're a top 10 type of defense. So that's going to be the challenge. Penn State's going to have to find a way to generate enough points. Because one way or another, Lane Kiffin always gets the ball in the end zone. So this will be a challenge, I think, for Penn State's offense to put the ball in the end zone to win this football game.
Yeah, to your point, 34th in the nation scoring defense is pretty good. It's especially good when you consider kind of the way they play offensively, and that's it's an impressive combination. Again, a 10-2 team, a team that went 6-2 in the SEC. They are really good. Let's dive into some of the non-New Year's Six bowls. Iowa gets Tennessee, and we've been talking about this the last couple days, and this is kind of, I think, one of those classic games where you got really good offense against really good defense, and it's kind of let's see which one prevails.
Yeah, and heading up that offense, Joe Milton. We all remember him. Michigan transfer. He's a dual-threat quarterback. He's doing a good job down there. I mean, 20 touchdowns, 5 interceptions for him, but he also has 7 rushing touchdowns. So they're going to be facing a quarterback like we talked about earlier, a dual-threat quarterback. Well, this is definitely a dual-threat quarterback that they haven't seen a whole lot of in the Big Ten. So it'll be a little bit of for Phil Parker, a little bit of a different game plan, but they'll make an adjustment there. And they do have a 1,000-yard rusher. They're in the top half of the SEC with running the football. So they can keep you honest that way. But it's really, in my opinion, this thing's going to come down to Iowa's defense versus Joe Milton, a dual-threat quarterback, not giving up the run-pass type.
I thought the thing that was crazy about Iowa against Michigan was we talked going into the game, right, that the formula for Iowa to win the game was force some turnovers and have some success in special teams. And instead, it was Michigan that forced the turnovers and had success in special teams. I mean, think about their touchdown drives, Wani, 6 yards and 5 yards.
Yeah,
that's what Iowa needs.
I'm trying not to think about that, getting ready for Alabama, okay? I don't want to think about it, and I don't want to bring it up on the show, but it is the reality.
We mentioned yesterday when we were talking about Northwestern and Utah, obviously not a show you were on, but with Howard and Nicole, it was like breaking news right as we're up there. It happened that morning that Utah's quarterback Bryson Barnes was in the transfer portal. It is interesting to note he is going to play in this game despite the fact that he's in the portal. So it seemed like maybe Northwestern caught a break there, not as much. But this is a great reward for Northwestern no matter what happens. It's been a remarkable season, as you and I have talked about. And yeah, if you can figure out a way to beat Utah, great. But those practices are so valuable for David Braun to kind of further institute what it is he wants to do.
And to help his recruiting. That's the big advantage that everybody talks about. Yes, development of young players, but also when you have these practices, you can get these high school coaches and high school players to come in and they're watching practice, they're seeing the coaches, they're getting more interaction with the players. So it's an opportunity, it's a twofold. 1, to help recruiting, and 2, to develop your players. And Kyle Whittingham, the head coach at Utah, nobody does it better. This guy is excellent. Yeah. This will be a physical game. The quarterback, I guess he's debuting. He's playing for how many teams are there in college? He's out there just like you say in the NFL. You may not be here.
It's an audition.
But you're auditioning for 31 other teams. You're auditioning for 123 other teams. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see if he does he play at a high level, or he could go out there and just feel the pressure? And so it'll be. But they're going to be a physical team, and Utah always plays great defense.
They always are. No doubt.
Always.
And that's challenged, as we know, Northwestern's been great offensively.
No, they're going to have to be balanced offensively, which they have been. Run, pass. They got to keep that going this week.
Absolutely. Finally, Northwestern getting a well-deserved reward. I think you could say the same about Rutgers. Just amazing to think of the progress they have made here in Greg Schiano's time to make it to a bowl game. I know they made one a couple of years ago, but they made it as a 5-win team. To make it as a 6-win team, to have clinched it as early as they did. And this is a matchup where you know both sides pretty well.
I
Rutgers
do.
Miami.
We recruited Cristobal. He played for us down there the first year, his rookie year, and we were at Miami, University of Miami. And Greg, obviously, we worked together, as everybody knows that story. The crazy thing when I'm looking at this game, Miami has lost 10 of the last 11 bowl games. They're 0-4.
What's happened?
Coach,
They need you back
No,
there.
if they're not playing, I know what's going on. If they're not playing for the national championship, those kids have no interest. They're going to get off a plane in New York with snow on the ground from Miami, Florida. I'm saying right now, it's going to be 5 in a row losses. Rutgers, I like Rutgers in this game. Greg's going to have these guys ready to go. Mario's got his work cut out for him.
He does. His quarterback's in the portal, too. Tyler Van Dykes, and I got Ja'Cory Brown at QB. And throwing a pass all year. He played a lot last year.
That's right. Their second-team guy got a broken arm. Their first-team guy's in the portal, and they're playing a guy, like you say, it's 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, but 0 this year.
Yeah.
So, come on.
You like the way it's shaping up for the Scarlet Knights?
I like the Scarlet Knights.
Wani, this is our goodbye. Not permanent goodbye, but goodbye for the Tuesday show. Yeah.
Yeah, well.
Awesome all year.
I'll be here next Tuesday having coffee. I'll buy.
All right. Tomorrow you can catch a Hoops doubleheader as the Terps host the Nittany Lions. It's followed by Nebraska and Minnesota. Coverage begins with the tip-off show Wednesday, only on the Big Ten Network and the Fox Sports app. And Trent Meacham is back with me here for the rest of the show. And Trent, we mentioned the 2 conference basketball games tonight and also said there's a huge non-conference game. Time to dive into that one. FAU, Illinois. This is a fabulous game. FAU, everyone remembers Final Four last year. They stumbled early in the year against Bryant, but since then they've gotten their footing. And, man, Illinois has looked really, really good. What are you watching here tonight?
Well, I'll just first touch on FAU. They start a 7-1 center, Golden, and they surround him with terrific guard plays. They were all there last year in the Final Four, so great guard plays. John L. Davis, Elijah Martin, they're going to play a lot of 4-out, 1-in, and spread you out. They shoot the 3-ball really well. So Illinois, now their defense has been fantastic. Top 10 in the country defensively. You look at their roster, they're all long, they're all athletic, they all can move their feet. So I like how they match up against FAU. Now, can they keep up with the ball movement, the drive and kicks? That's going to be tough for Illinois, but I think Terrence Shannon maybe hasn't been talked enough. His play, and he's shooting almost over 40% from 3. If he's doing that, watch out. He's playing like a first-team All-American. If Illinois has a success, you add in the depth they have. Quincy Guerrier is a transfer from Oregon, has been really good as of late, especially on the board. So this is going to be a fun game tonight.
I think it'll be great. I was talking to Brad Underwood recently, and he was saying how impressed he's been with Terrence Shannon on the defensive end. And that's the theme of this team. I mean, I was looking at this. So they are allowing 36% from 2-point range so far this year. You remember Brad Underwood's first season. I had to look back to get the exact number. 54% from 2-point range. It's amazing how he has changed his defensive philosophy and the difference it's made.
They were a lot more aggressive. They gambled.
Yes,
they played in the passing lanes. They trapped. And now they're more compact, but they have the athletes and quickness to get out there and be disruptive. Terrence Shannon has been great on that end of the floor, but you name it. I mean, whether it's Ty Rodgers, Coleman Hawkins, who can defend pretty much every position. So when you look at the individual pieces, they all are fantastic on that end, but together they're playing as a unit, they're connected, so tonight's going to be a great matchup.
Part of a really big week for the Fighting Illini. They will take on Tennessee
Another big one.
Saturday. We'll talk about how it plays out tomorrow. Trent will be with me on Big Ten Today. We'll see you then.